Hi guys, welcome to tonight's edition of Between the Spreadsheets. Tonight I've got with me my guest, Matt Cawood, who is an expert on research and development. A lot of businesses think that research and development is only for the big boys, and I hope Matt's going to explain how you can benefit from making a research and development claim and really what it is. So Matt, my audience, Matt Cawood.
Well, hi, Stephen. Nice to see you again. I just want to, first of all, dispel the myths of R&D. A lot of directors think it's only for brand new products and processes and innovative projects, but it's also definitely not only for science and aerospace and engineering, and also it's not only for profit-making companies. So what I want to do is reiterate to people that it's about what you do as a business and what we can find that you potentially do different, which will enable you to make an R&D claim, which will ultimately help you and your business.
So a lot of our clients are small businesses. A lot of the people I deal with are small businesses. Probably most of the people watching this have small businesses. So how can someone running a fish and chip shop or a pub or a small manufacturing company, what is the advantage of R&D anyway?
So the HMRC, at the very first R&D claim I did, the company director said to me, listen, I don't really subscribe to this. Why would the government give us this money? What is the reason for it? And they were skeptical because a lot of companies are scared of the HMRC. They think HMRC is only there to take. But the HMRC in this particular R&D fund is a £5.1 billion fund. It was 3.9 the previous year. It's grown as the country sees the necessity for companies to invest in themselves and grow. And once these directors start to see that this money is available to them, they perhaps then reinvest and use that money again and say, oh, well, I was able to do that. I improved my app, I improved my business process, particular process that helped me grow, and they reinvest in themselves. And on the flip side, the HMRC know that ultimately means a growth in the company, growth in corporations, tax eventually, maybe hiring more staff, and it's a beneficial process for everyone involved.
The next thing that we're looking at that Matt does a lot of work with is that there are various grants available that if you can prove that your R&D expenditure is R&D expenditure, then the government will then process the grants for you. So it's in this basis that there are fortunes to be had. Now, sometimes it's a percentage of turnover, sometimes it's a percentage of profit, sometimes it's a percentage of claim. It can be all sorts of things, can't it, Matt?
Yes, it's a tax relief. It's actually a grant that you get as well. So we'll go and actually physically sit down with you as an accountant. We will make the 4 to 6 page, can be 20 to 30 page report, and we physically make this grant for these companies, and we go back 2 years. Most directors have no idea that they've been involved in these for the last 2 years, and they get this money as a payment to them. And what I believe, and I'm sure as an accountant you're going to argue that as a tax-free grant from the government. And I just want to dispel another myth. It's not for science and aerospace and engineering. Yes, those are industries that are heavily claiming for it, but the likes of construction, a scaffolding company, for example, we made a claim on, which you would never believe we're doing R&D, but they had a difficult project. I don't want to get into too much detail, but they had to go over a certain property. They weren't allowed to touch their property. It then made that unsafe, and they had to secure it in certain ways. The costs and the staff involved and the extra expenditure they went to resulted in a claim there. Another point so that you touched on there, it's a loss-making company. You say that only a profit-making company would be eligible for a claim. That's also a myth that I have to dispel. If a loss-making company will actually make more, is eligible for a bigger grant. They're eligible for 33% of their expenditure over the last 2 years, as opposed to 27%. Obviously, when we're doing the post claims. So basically what I'm trying to say is that it's a situation where it's more easily explained to the director when we look at it as a grant from the government for and to reward them for their work of them taking their company from point A to point E. What do they do in between?
So let's look at a few ideas. I mean, we have hi Tony. Tony runs a fish and chip shop, and he's near Manchester City. So he was coming up with a way of dyeing his fish blue.
Okay.
So great process. I'm not sure where he is in that, but he's spent time and energy and money dyeing the fish blue.
Okay. Well, for example, changing a recipe as such for a takeaway wouldn't sort of scream R&D at me, but something like that is a new process. It's the R&D claim there would be, what are the costs involved? How is it that adding the blue dye, how has that had to change his original recipe? Has he had to then get a new process, maybe a different oil for frying, or all the different elements that would go into it because he changed the one thing? So changing a flavor of a product, certainly no R&D. But if you change something, if you're a manufacturer of these fish and you're wholesaling that and manufacturing that and sending it out to the trade, and you change the color, which resulted in you having to change your processes, your ingredients, etc., and the science of it, certainly R&D there. But what we always like to say is that there's not going to be a blind R&D claim sort of staring you in the face at every business or industry.
We've got to work it, don't we? We've got to bring it out. That's where we come in. We have to make sure, because sometimes if it's like the fish dyeing process, if the fish dyeing process is something it brings a new product to the market or a new process to the market, then we've possibly got a winner. But what people don't realize as well is that if you've got staff that you pay wages to that have spent time in this process, or even your own wages, or even you need a proportion of your premises to work from while you're doing this, it's all contributing towards R&D claims. Because remember, if you're paying £20,000 a year in rent and you use 20% of that as a space where you've got to develop this, then 20% of your rent could be fairly allocated into the R&D project. Sometimes a lot of businesses do have processes that they don't realize they've got. I mean, they don't always have to be extreme. There can be little tweaks in what they do. Dad, you've been working with my dad, haven't you?
Yes, no, I was actually just about to bring him up, and very modest man, and
not like me.
I actually came out of that conversation just almost inspired. So just to give you to viewers a bit of a background, he is a general market trader, has done so for many, many years, and he came up with an idea. Excuse me if I'm oversimplifying it, but he was using old material from furniture material to make these high-end bags. Obviously, they didn't glue as well, or it wasn't a straightforward process to glue the leather and the fabric together, and various complications came. So him explaining it to me was R&D after R&D after R&D, and he didn't even know that. And the most rewarding thing for me was when I said to him, you need to be rewarded for what you have created. You've created a new product from scratch. Nobody else has done this. And there is and I used sort of basics. I said, the government will reward you for that because it's had a positive impact on the environment. So a big R&D saving, actually, the claim is when companies are saving materials going into the skip and going into landfill. So they are thinking of ways that instead of in a process, 30% of the excess waste would then be put into landfill. If they created a process and only 10% went in there, that saving becomes an R&D claim as well. So with your dad, for example, he was using 100% of the material that he was using, was saving it from landfill, having a positive impact on the environment, which the HMRC love that. I mean, that's manner of heaven. They just think, wow, okay, not only is he's being innovative and he's creating a new process, he's saving the planet and he's saving money.
Yeah, so he'll like that because
Yeah.
another thing to note, it's not always about the money that you get or the tax deductions. It's quite often recognition for something that you've brought into being. Now, with my dad, it's interesting because he actually manufactures handbags and sports bags, or he used to, a lot less than he does now. But his process basically was developed because, like lots of manufacturing industries, it's not just businesses that have closed down, it's the whole industry. So the difficulty in getting material is quite significant, and the cost of the material is also significant. So what he does is he takes cloth that is usually thrown away from often the furniture industry or allied industries that use a rigid cloth, but it's not suitable to make bags out of. But the problem with that then is also that it's not very pretty. It's grey and black, and not good black, and not good greys. They're just quite gritty as well. So what he's done is develop a process where he can take things like curtain material or dress material, or even leather, patchwork leather, and bond it to this material, which then creates an unlimited supply of different variations and different styles of potential cloth. Now, he's never marketed this as a business owner, right? He's just done it because he couldn't find a cloth supply. So that's interesting as well. Incidentally, he used he started off the idea of patchwork leather to make bags fronts, and that's been pinched, and he lost out on that because he never saw it as an idea. He only saw it as a way of dealing with things. But whenever you see these patchwork front handbags, the cloth generally came from a jacket or furniture industry, and they cut a slice and use it as a front and then stitch around it to make the bag look as if it's all leather. And that was my dad. He came up with that. He did that, but it's now so what he's done now is an extension of that. And but he doesn't see it as anything. He just sees it as a process. The other thing about the machines is that the process and the machine that it comes from it. If you buy things on an industrial standard like this, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds. But my dad can put something together for 50 quid.
Wow.
So the whole process is dead cheap, and it's something that can be work across trades as well. So there's an opportunity as a business in own right. So my dad will never get around to marketing this, but obviously there's people out there that feel they could do something with it. Yeah.
And the astonishing thing is that, I mean, the good R&D specialists, and at Western Financial, I'd say we are the best in the industry. We'd actually go and see him. We'd walk around his factory or his warehouse, and we'd probably pick up on so many more things. And even if it falls outside of those 2 years, I mean, potentially there's no claim there because those are the guidelines. But it would open his mind up to something in the future and say, well, actually, so I produced that was innovative, that developed me as a business, it developed my processes. So we most of the time like to go and actually visit the clients and say, okay, let's talk through this. And sometimes it just comes out of nowhere. Well, the obvious R&D wasn't what we came there for, but we found out there were other processes involved. And I think your dad is that type of client who we'd stumble across. I mean, he'd probably say, "Oh, I just made that for that, and this is what."
Yeah,
this
he does.
Is.
He's got loads of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not just my dad. I look at clients all the time, and I'm quite amazed at how innovative people are. I think the point of all this is, don't you be the judge of whether you've got a process or a product. I don't care what you do. If you're a fish and chip shop, if you're a joiner, if you run a pub, if you're an eBayer, run it by me. We can always have a quick look. The key point is that we've got experts like Matt around us who can appraise the idea for you and put it together. And then I'm in the background, my team are in the background, making sure that it's presented properly to HMRC. And so this is how we work with people.
We won't take a case unless we are 100% confident that it will be successful and it is valid R&D. Because
why we like that?
Because the relationship that we have and you have with the HMRC is paramount. Because if there are companies out there who want to slash the costs involved and try and get you sort of bogus claims, and the HMRC cop onto that very quickly.
What's the real reason? The real reason is that we don't charge you anything unless we get results. So we don't want to.
You're right. Okay, there we go. So yeah, and that is our biggest selling point. So no win, no fee.
As in everything we do, if the benefit to you is released solely on achieving results, then there's a no win, no fee type attitude. So
yes.
I only work with people that provide situations like that. But have we got any other stories of R&D that we can bore people with? I mean, interest them with?
Well, I'd like to. A particular success of mine was with my brother's cricket company, and it was the app. I mean, it's now one of the largest. It is the largest amateur cricket company or league in the world, and they work tirelessly to build up their players, build up the unique situation where they were scoring on an app. Sort of the umpires were standing there with an app, and they were scoring, and players could, as soon as they've gone out, they can go and check their score, check their stats. Oh, how many balls did I face? What was my strike rate? Then they can check updates and see their world rankings. Go, wow, okay, geez, I'm ranked X amounts in the world. I've gone up. Oh, geez, I've gone down. And that the creation of that app almost entirely was unique to that company, which then became a very substantial claim for the company, and a growing company as such. So the little examples like that, and I feel passionate about, is when I come across a director where he's passionate about his company, and everything he thinks that he's done has just been, day-to-day grind and getting the company to where it is. They miss out on what we consider researching and developing. Emphasis on the word developing. They are developing their company. They are growing. We've got, I'm even helping distribution companies. So, for example, if they've changed their process slightly, which saved them time and money and got their products out quicker. I'm not allowed to name names, and everything is confidential. That's something I probably should bring up too. Once we sign our first non-disclosure agreement, your secrets of your trade are your secrets, and they stay within the realms. So you're never going to give away the secrets of your company and what you're doing. So as a client, never feel that that's at risk.
What we're going to do now is just have a quick look at the key benefits. Remember, you're not the person to decide whether your product or process is any good. Just contact us, and we'll take it from there. So just to summarize, give me 3 key benefits of an R&D claim.
Well, first of all, no win, no fee. You've got nothing to lose. I don't like the word, but it's free money. It comes from the government.
Yep.
They want to give you this money.
Yep.
We don't waste your time because it's our time that we spend. We spend the bulk amount of time on getting that claim for you. So we don't waste your time. If there's no claim, we don't waste your time. We don't waste our time. The other biggest benefit to me is we do this every year for you. From now on, for every single year from this day on, we will do this service for you. Every year we'll make this claim.
Oh, right. So you're constantly looking for possibilities.
And the best thing is then the directors are informed this time and go, okay, well, now I can spend more money on my app, or more money improving that process, which resulted in
So even when you've got a product or a process, you can still continue claiming for improving it.
Yes.
Expanding. Right. Okay.
So it's
there's a lot here, isn't there? There's a lot of reasons why people should talk to us. And I think the overriding message here is that you don't need to be a big firm. You don't need to be specifically in the realms of research and development, medical, computers, all that type of thing. It obviously helps because those industries lend themselves to this type of thing more easily. But the core thing is that whatever you do, whatever makes you special, there could be an R&D claim. That seems to have covered everything. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure people have learned something here. You've made tax not just taxing, but less boring than it normally is. So it's always great when people can find an angle to get money back, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, but for everybody out there, thank you for joining us. And if you would like to know more, or you don't even need to feel you've got a product, just if you fancy having a go, just contact me at actually contact me on my accountancy number. So it's Stephen with a V at accountsdirect.biz. So do contact me by email. I'll have a quick look at what you're doing, and I'll pass you on to my pal Matt, who will sort you out. Really sort you out. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you at the next episode.
Okay, always a pleasure.